Yes, good evening, all of you. Yes, all of you, can you hear me? Yes, Padmaja, can you hear me? Right. So, let's start the session for today. Uh, uh, Usman, can you hear me? Usman Amjad, can you hear me? Right. So, thank you for your confirmation, Usman. Right. So, we'll start the session for today. Right. If you have any queries, I'll address you all your queries at the last, but in the meantime you can also type your queries and put that in the chat window. Okay, right. So coming to AngularJS. So what is AngularJS technically? What is the use of AngularJS technically? And what is a proper technical definition for AngularJS? We'll understand today. Right. So today we'll understand introduction and history of AngularJS, definition of AngularJS, why AngularJS, or what are the advantages of AngularJS, and finally we'll understand what is framework, and we'll also understand today technically AJS definition. Right. So these are the things what we are going to understand today related to AngularJS. So today we'll see introduction and history of AngularJS, definition of AngularJS, why AngularJS, what is framework, technically AngularJS definition. So these are the things we are going to understand today. Okay, right, fine. Sultan, can you hear me? Right, Sultan, can you hear me? Right, so today we'll start with introduction and history of AngularJS. Right. So thank you for that confirmation, Sultan. Right, coming to the introduction and history of AngularJS. So first of all, AngularJS. So here, what is JS? So JS stands for JavaScript. So what is JS? JS stands for JavaScript. So where we have to use this JavaScript? Okay, so we use JavaScript for developing web pages. So JavaScript is used in developing web pages. So basically, web page. So web page is presentation of information in browser. So web page is nothing but presentation of information in browser. So this is a simple definition. What we can say, presentation of information in a browser. Right. So basically, to present any information in a browser, we use UI technologies. Okay. So to develop a web page, we use UI technology. So UI stands for user interface technology. So UI stands for user interface technology. So the commonly used UI technologies to develop a web page are HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So these are the three technologies which are used for developing any web page in a website. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and the main use of HTML is how to display data in web page. So the main use of HTML is how to display data or information in a web page, like headings, bold, italic, underline, list, table, paragraphs, etc. Next, coming to CSS. So the main use of CSS is it makes our HTML data more stylish, colorful, and interactive. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. The main use of CSS is it makes our HTML data more stylish, colorful, interactive. These are the three main uses, or you can also say these are the three main requirements of CSS in HTML. Now, HTML and CSS does not have programming capability. Okay, HTML and CSS does not have programming capability. So to go for programming capability, we use JavaScript. Right, so if you want to perform any programming in HTML, we have to go for JavaScript. So coming to JavaScript. Right, so coming to JavaScript. So when was JavaScript invented and what is the main purpose of JavaScript? So coming to JavaScript, so JavaScript was invented in 1993 by Netscape Group. Right, so coming to JavaScript, so JavaScript was invented in 1993 by Netscape Group. So what is the main purpose of JavaScript in developing HTML web pages? The main purpose is programming in HTML. Okay, programming in HTML. Example 10 plus 20. If you perform 10 plus 20 in HTML, it will display as it is. But if you do 10 plus 20 in HTML using JavaScript, it will display the result as 30. So this is the main purpose. Programming capability in HTML is done by JavaScript. Because HTML mainly concentrates how to display the data. CSS mainly concentrates how to make your HTML data stylish, colorful, interactive. Coming to JavaScript, programming capability in HTML is done by JavaScript. Right, so now what is the main advantage of JavaScript in HTML? So the main advantage of JavaScript is it is used to perform client-side validations. Example, form validations, form input validations. So if you want to perform input validations inside a form like text field, password field, checkboxes, radio buttons, text area, and all the input fields which are used in a form, we have to go for JavaScript. So to perform client-side validations, this is the main advantage of JavaScript. Right. So now let's get into, now we understood what is JavaScript. So let's get into what is a definition of JavaScript. using AngularJS. So definition of AngularJS with respect to JavaScript. So that is what we are going to understand now. So what exactly is AngularJS when compared to JavaScript? So now AngularJS. So AngularJS is nothing but a client-side JavaScript framework. AngularJS is nothing but a client-side JavaScript framework using which we can develop dynamic web applications. Using which we can develop dynamic web applications. So once again I'll repeat. What is AngularJS? Right. So you can look the definition here. AngularJS is nothing but client-side JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. Now what are these dynamic web applications? Right, so this is a main concern. What do you mean by dynamic web applications? Now we'll understand what is a simple meaning of dynamic web applications. So dynamic means data or information in a web page changes from time to time, location to location, and user to user. So what is dynamic web application? So dynamic web application means data or information in a web page changes with respect to time, with respect to location, with respect to user. For example, news updates. So these news updated changes from time to time. So this is a best example. Google News. So Google News website is where information or data changes from time to time. And next one, coming to location to location. Now weather report. So weather report in a website changes from location to location. You can take anything like Yahoo Weather or Google Weather also. So we have many applications, Google Weather, Yahoo Weather, we have many applications for that. So weather report is the best example where information or data changes with respect to location. So in India it is 40 degrees in Hyderabad. Okay, now coming to Jammu and Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir it is around 5 to 6 degrees of temperature, and coming to Switzerland it will be something like 0 degrees. So here information or data in a web page changes with respect to location. And coming to the third one, the best example is Gmail or Facebook. User to user. User to user. Okay, so Gmail or Facebook, information or data changes with respect to the user. Right, so these are the three examples. First one, news update or cricket score updates. So here information changes with respect to time. Second one, weather reporting. Information or data changes with respect to location. And third one, Gmail or Facebook. Here data or information changes with respect to user. So if I log in with my ID, I'll be getting my Gmail and my Facebook updates. And if you log in with your ID, you will be getting your Gmail updates and Facebook updates. So this is what we call it as dynamic applications. Right, so these are called as dynamic applications. Time to time, location to location, and user to user. Right, so using AngularJS, we can develop these applications very simple, very easy, less number of coding lines, and short period of time. So that is what is the advantage of AngularJS when compared to other scripting languages. Right, so what is the advantage of AngularJS when compared to other scripting languages? So have a look at here. So coming to the advantages, why we have to use AngularJS. So one, so we can develop a web page simple and easy. 2, less number of coding lines. And 3, short time development. So I'll put this as A, simple and easy development, B, less number of coding lines, and C, short time development. Is it okay, all of you? So using AngularJS, we can perform client-side programming or client-side web application development, simple and easy, less number of coding lines, and short time development. Right, so this is what is AngularJS advantages when compared to other scripting languages which are available in the market. Right, now let's get into the history of AngularJS. So who invented AngularJS, where it was invented, and today who is maintaining AngularJS, that we'll understand now. So who invented AngularJS, where it was invented, and who is maintaining AngularJS. So coming to history of AngularJS. Right, so AngularJS was invented by Misko Hevery. Right, AngularJS was invented by Misko Hevery in 2009. So in the year 2009, AngularJS was invented by Misko Hevery. So in which company it was invented? So it was invented in Brad Tech LLC. It was invented in Brad Tech LLC. So he was working at that company as a testing engineer, and this company is in California, USA. Right, so Misko Hevery in the year 2009, Brad Tech LLC, California, USA. So from 2009 we are using AngularJS. Now prior to 2009, in 2006 jQuery was invented. So jQuery was invented in 2006, and this was invented by John Resig, and this was very popular JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. But after introduction of AngularJS, it has changed how to develop a dynamic web applications. Very simple, easy, short time development, less number of coding lines, and this became highly successful in the market. And next, in the year 2012, now in the year 2012, this was undertaken by Google Corporation. This was undertaken by Google Corporation officially, and till today AngularJS is being maintained by Google company, and it is providing the updates from time to time. So now if you want to download AngularJS, we have to go to the website which is provided by Google Corporation to develop, to download and install AngularJS in our system. Now coming to who is Mesco Hevery and what is his background? We'll understand that now. So coming to the Mesco Hevery. So Mesco Hevery is a testing engineer, automation testing engineer in Google company. So he is a automation testing engineer in Google company. And previously he also worked for other companies, like he worked for Adobe, Sun Microsystems, Intel, Xerox. So generally Xerox. So Xerox is a company name, it's not a machine. Okay. And he became expert in building web applications. So for example, if you want to get more information about Mesco Hevery, you can check his blog mesco.hevery.com. Right, so we'll just try to access this website mesco.hevery.com. Right, we'll open this in the browser. Right, mesco.hevery.com. So this is the guy who invented AngularJS. I hope it's visible for everybody. So AngularJS is invented by this company, by Mesco Hevery. Right, so he's an expert in these technologies: 1. Java, JavaScript, Flex, ActionScript, and he also works for these projects. Like he works for AngularJS project, AngularJS testing drivers, ClassPath Explorer, Testability Explorer, Singleton Detector, and Flex Calendar. So these are the other projects he works with. Right, so this is the person who invented AngularJS. So you can get more information about this guy in this website, mesco.hevery.com about. Right, so this is what is introduction to AngularJS. So AngularJS was invented by Mesco Hevery in 2009. Later it was undertaken by Google Corporation in 2012. So he worked as a testing engineer in Google Corporation, and prior to that he worked with other companies like Adobe, Sun Microsystems, Intel, Xerox, etc. So this is what is small introduction to AngularJS. Now we'll understand very important definition. What is AngularJS as a framework? So this is a definition what we'll understand now. What is framework in AngularJS? Right, so first of all, why we call AngularJS as JavaScript framework and what exactly this framework means. Right, so technically AngularJS is a client-side JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, so AngularJS is a client-side JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. And we know what is web application. So web application is nothing but website, and website is nothing but collection of web pages, and web page is nothing but presentation of information or data to the users on the internet. And we know what is dynamic. Dynamic means data or information in a web page changes with respect to time, with respect to location, with respect to users. So that is what is dynamic web application. Right, so now we know what is JavaScript. So JavaScript means programming in HTML, and we also know what is this client side. So basically whenever you develop a web application, we use 3-tier architecture: client, server database. Once again I'll repeat, client server database. So client means it is nothing but your browser. In the browser we type the website name, request goes to the server, server will accept the request, process the request, generates the reply and sends that reply as a response back to the client. Right. So here, what is this JavaScript framework? So what exactly is this framework? So now coming to the definition of framework, we'll understand this technically. So framework is nothing but library. So framework is nothing but library. So what library and where we have to use this library? Right. So technically framework is nothing but runtime library with runtime environments. So technically framework is nothing but runtime library plus runtime environment. For example, you take C language. So we write a C program in Turbo C. So Turbo C has inbuilt C compiler for compiling and running C programs. And whenever you are writing the C program, we use some predefined library. So predefined library like hash include stdio.h, hash include conio.h. In the same way, framework is nothing but runtime library and runtime environment. So why we have to use this runtime library and runtime environment? Right, it's very simple. Browser understands only three technologies. 1. HTML, 2. CSS, and 3. JavaScript. Okay, so every browser which is available in the market understands only these three UI technologies by default. So if you want to make your browser to understand AngularJS, then we have to use this AngularJS library which has inbuilt AngularJS environment. So once we use this AngularJS library, when the browser loads our web page, we can run AngularJS coding in our web page. So that is what is framework. So framework means runtime library and runtime environment. So this runtime library is provided to us in the form of angular.js. So how to download this angular.js I'm going to discuss in the coming sessions, and how to use this in our HTML web page I'm going to tell in the coming sessions. Next we have runtime environment. So runtime environment means we have AngularJS engine. We have AngularJS engine. So these two are inbuilt with AngularJS library. So when we use this AngularJS library in our web page, we can do client-side programming, very simple, very easy, less number of coding lines and short time development. These are the three main advantages of using AngularJS. And technically framework means runtime library plus runtime environment. Library means angular.js, environment means AngularJS engine. So engine means it is a piece of software or a program which understands AngularJS coding and executes that AngularJS codings in a web page. Okay, so what is this engine? Engine means it is a piece of program which understands AngularJS coding in a web page and executes that AngularJS coding to display the result in a web page. Is it okay all of you? So this is what you mean by framework. runtime library plus runtime environment. So technically this is JavaScript client-side framework for developing dynamic web applications. For developing dynamic web applications. Right. Now we'll understand what is technically. What is the technical definition of AngularJS? So now coming to the technical definition of AngularJS, it goes like this. What exactly is AngularJS technically? So technically AngularJS is a structural framework for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, so the simple technical definition of AngularJS is structural. So what do you mean by the structural? So structural means we are going to use MVC model. We are going to use MVC model for developing our client-side web applications. Now what is this MVC model? We are going to discuss in the next session tomorrow. Right. And next, framework. So just now we understood what is framework. Runtime library plus runtime environment. So library means it is predefined functions, predefined set of classes which will make our development simple and easy. And runtime environment means it will understand the AngularJS coding in a web page and it displays the contents of AngularJS in a web page. Next, developing. So developing means it's nothing but writing our logics. So we write logics using AngularJS coding, simple, easy and less number of coding lines. And next, what do you mean by this dynamic? So dynamic means we develop our application wherein data or information changes with respect to time, with respect to location, with respect to users. Okay, and web application. So web application is nothing but internet applications or websites. So this is the technical definition. AngularJS structural framework for developing dynamic web applications. So once again I'll explain you what is this exactly. Structural. So structural means we are going to use MVC model. So in MVC model, M stands for model, V stands for view and C stands for controller. So in the next session I'm going to give you what exactly is this MVC. M stands for model. So model means data, the data which is used in your web application. For example, if you take a Flipkart application, in Flipkart application the data is mobile data, pen drive data, laptop data, etc. View. So view means presentation of data. V means view. So view means presentation of data. So we do presentation of data in different ways, like table format, list format. Okay. Next, one after the other format, linear format, non-linear format. So that is presentation of data to the user in a web page is nothing but view. And C stands for controller. So controller means processing the data in a web page. Processing the information in a web page is done by controller. For example, you are selecting a pen drive, you are selecting a laptop, you are selecting a mobile phone in a web page, and your bill is 10,000 rupees. So according to the Flipkart offer, if you make a bill of 10,000 and above, you should get 10% discount. So when your bill is 10,000, so 10,000 minus 1,000, you have to pay 9,000. So you got 10% discount, and that 10% discount is 1,000. So here controller. So controller means writing logics in your web page, and that logics will do it through JavaScript coding or Angular JavaScript coding. So model, view, controller. So simple. Model means data, view means presentation of data, controller means logics in our data. Right. And next coming to framework. So framework is nothing but runtime library and runtime environment. So library means inbuilt set of classes or inbuilt set of methods or functions which we can use in our HTML program, and we can make our HTML program simple, easy, less number of coding lines and short time development. And runtime environment means it is a small piece of program which provides understanding of AngularJS coding in a web page and executing that code to display the information in a web page. So that is what you mean by framework. Right. Dynamic. So dynamic means information or data in a web page changes from time to time, location to location, and user to user. So that is what we mean by dynamic. And next coming to web applications. So web application is nothing but website, our internet applications. So this is what is a technical definition of dynamic web application using AngularJS. Structural framework for developing dynamic web applications. Right. So this is what is today's topic, what we are discussing. 1. So today we understood introduction to AngularJS. Right. Introduction to AngularJS. 2. We understood what is JavaScript when it was invented. And next we understood definition of AngularJS, basic definition of AngularJS. It's a JavaScript framework. And next we understood why we have to go for AngularJS. So why we have to go for AngularJS. And next we also understood history of AngularJS. So who invented AngularJS, when it was invented, now which company is undertaking AngularJS, okay, and we also understood some background of inventor of AngularJS, misco.hevery.com. And finally we understood what is framework. We understood what do you mean by framework. So framework means runtime library plus runtime environment. And then we also understood technically what do you mean by AngularJS. It is nothing but structural framework for developing dynamic web applications. Structural framework, structural MVC, framework, runtime library, runtime environment. Developing, so developing means development. Dynamic, information or data changes with respect to time, location, and user. Web application is nothing but website. Structural framework for developing dynamic web applications. Right, so this is what is about today's topic, and tomorrow we are going to discuss what do you mean by MVC in AngularJS. And tomorrow I'm going to show you how to download AngularJS library and how to use that in our web page. So these are the topics which I'm going to cover in the next session. MVC, in AngularJS, downloading AngularJS, using AngularJS, and when we use AngularJS library in our web page, how our coding will become simple, easy, less number of coding lines, and short time development, means fast development of dynamic web application. So this is what we are going to discuss in the next session. Is it okay, all of you? Right, so before we wind up the session for today, I would like to take the queries from your side, and these will be the tomorrow's topic. Is it okay, all of you? Right, so any queries from your side? Anyone? Right, yes, I got a question from Sutan. Yes, we will cover server side programming also. Right, so we will cover server side programming, like if you want to make connectivity from AngularJS to Java, I'm going to discuss sample JSP program, and if you are going to make connectivity from Java to .NET, I'm going to give you one sample example for ASP, and if you are going to make connectivity from Java program to PHP, I'm going to show you one sample PHP program also. So we are going to cover three server side technologies: Java using Tomcat server, .NET using IIS server, and PHP using XAMPP server. Is that okay, Sutan? Right, so next, any other queries from anybody? Padmaja, Usman, do you have any queries? You can put me a question in the chat window. Right, so will there be any lecture on JavaScript? Absolutely. I'm going to give you basics of HTML, CSS and JavaScript with respect to topic wise. So before discussing any program in AngularJS, first I'm going to discuss about HTML, CSS and JavaScript. For example, if I'm making a table in AngularJS, I'm going to explain you how to write a table in HTML, and that table I'm going to use it in AngularJS. And next, if I'm going to apply any CSS in AngularJS, first I'm going to do that small CSS case study, and then after explaining that, then I'm going to use that in our AngularJS. Right, is your doubt clarified, Usman? Muhammad Usman, is your doubt clarified? Right, so thank you for your reply. And next, Padmaja. Right, so Padmaja asked me a question. The question is, client side server means, yeah, client side server. Tomorrow you'll get the clarity when I discuss MVC architecture, client server database. Tomorrow once again you'll get the clarity on what is client, what is server and what is database, and client side framework. Inside the client side framework we are going to use MVC. So basically client will be the browser, server will be something like Java server, .NET server or PHP server, and database will be something like permanent storage of data. Is that okay? Right, in AngularJS definition, yeah, in AngularJS it is client side framework, structural framework for developing dynamic web application. And in tomorrow's topic you'll get more information on this client server DB. Right, so Sutan asked me one question. Current trends, which programming server sides? Yeah, so in server side programming the trend is one, Java, because 80% of the IT industries, they use Java as their server side programming, and after Java we have Python, and next followed by .NET programming. So 80% of the programming in web applications is done by Java programming. Right, is that okay, Sutan? Right. Next, any other queries from any of you before we wind up the session for today? Right. Padmaja, Usman, from your side, any queries? Right. So, yes, absolutely, Padmaja. We are going to get deep into the concepts. Every concepts I'll explain you with good diagrams. Absolutely. In HTML, CSS also, each and every topic. First, I'll explain you, and then I'm going to use that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in AngularJS. Yeah. So I'm going to give you all the necessary basics for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I'm going to do it in AngularJS coding. Yes, I got it. I know that most of you are new to this technology. So based on that only, everything will be covered from the basics and fundamentals. Is that okay, Padmaja? Right. Still any other queries? Sultan, Usman, Padmaja? Right. So thank you all of you. We'll wind up the session for today, and before winding up the session for today, I want to make a small confirmation. The course duration is, it will be 35 to 40 sessions. Daily it will be 1 hour 15 minutes. Sundays it will be holidays. Daily I'll give you assignments. You have to do that assignments, and you have to post that in our Facebook group. And any information related to fees, what is the fees for this, you have to get it from the Durgasoft online team. Is it okay, all of you? Yes, is it okay? You can ping me. Right. And next thing, every session will be recorded and it will be provided to you at the end of the all the classes. It will be given by you from Durgasoft only. Durgasoft online team will mail you. Is it okay, all of you? Right, so for tomorrow's session, as of now, no need to brush up any concepts. Just follow me. I'll make you a good developer in AngularJS. You have to just follow me. Once I start the assignments, then you can take daily assignments and you have to work for the next class. As of now, just follow me. Once I start the assignments, then you can prepare for the assignments and be ready for the next class. Is it okay, all of you? Right. So we'll wind up the session for today. Thank you all of you. Good night. Tomorrow we'll meet up again at sharp 8 p.m. Have a great day.